hello, internet friends near and far. Welcome to another episode of Parks and Conversation. This is a podcast where we usually watch an episode of Parks and Recreation and then we talk about it. But today, on a very special Parks and Conversation, it's a Parks and Retrospection situation because we're just going to do a recap of this whole journey that we've been on. And so the people on this journey are myself. I'm Jason. And I'm joined by my friend Jeremy. Say hello, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
So good. It is. It's weird to be coming to an end for this series. 126 episodes.
Wow.
And we started this in in the spring of 2020, as COVID was, raging. Like it was like, what else are you going to do other than watch TV? And everybody started podcasts, and we were one of those people.
Yeah, all of my plants have died. I don't do sourdough bread anymore. Yeah, all my Zentangle drawings have fallen to the wayside. But this is the one thing that I've kept through COVID, besides my brain fog.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure, and the weirdness of it is temporary because after this we'll start walking through another episode in the Sure-verse, and it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So, listener, start binge watching that now. So the plan today was to kind of do a little look back over the series and share some of our favorite things. We have an email from listener Christy, and we'll share some of her favorite things as well. We're just going to do our top fives and then overall favorite character arc, and then some grab bags of bits and jokes that we loved throughout the series. So that's kind of the retrospection. So it's like a clip show, only there's no clips and there's no show. Like you're not going to see anything.
There's only this.
It's just two middle-aged white guys talking into microphones, which is the whole podcasting ecosystem.
We're doing our part.
We're keeping it alive. Someday people will look back and say, like, why did podcasting take off? And we'll just say, kept a lot of white guys out of trouble.
It's really not for the listener. I think it's just therapy for us. It's just nobody has to listen to this.
Yeah. I mean,
But thank you for listening. If you are
for the tens of people who listen, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. And we would still love to hear from you.
Sure.
And so maybe I know people like are time shifting as they're listening to this. And so if like right now it's October 2023, October 27, 2023. And if you are listening to this in June 14th, 2048, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, that's a great show from my grandparents' day, and you were like, I'd like to write to those people. Well, send an email, parksandconversation@gmail.com, and we'll probably still be talking about something. So I mean, people keep making TV, but by then it's probably going to just be like a contact that you put into your eye and you watch the whole series, and you enjoy it in an afternoon, and you're like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. Which sounds terrible, actually, to have that method. So I'm sorry I put that into your dreamscape. But anyway, let's jump into this. Enough jibber jabber. How about some more jibber jabber?
Yeah, let's get to the real jibber jabber.
Yeah, let's start with email from Christy.
Town forum.
A town forum. Here it is. The last of our town forums email. We got an email from Christy. We asked for some feedback, and she wrote all of the reasons she loves all of the people, and there's a lot of them. And I'm not going to read all of the main cast, but I do want to start with her secondary characters. She says the Sapersteins are the worst in the best way, which is absolutely true. Every one of them, all three, are terrible. But then Dr. Saperstein, like Chris and Anne, like you can't help but love him when he's actually being doctor. But when he's parent, he's
Mr.
terrible.
Saperstein.
Yeah, he's terrible, and I can see why his kids are terrible. So there's that. The media personalities are ridiculous, of course. The work with government officials as broad stereotypes is too true, and the townspeople fighting about everything. I also can definitely relate to that with people just fighting about everything.
Do they though?
There's always yes. There's one right now. Somebody just being disagreeable, just to disagree. Do they though?
All right.
We don't disagree with you on this.
I don't think I'm not that bad. I'm just saying, I mean, people can offer a different opinion without being, wow. Some people are just super sensitive, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. Some people are.
You're so agreeable.
I try to just be a get along guy, let's just get along.
Yeah. Like Ron Dunn.
Exactly. When I feel like a conversation is over, it just simply ejects itself. So I just walk away
and just walk into the woods.
Yeah. Baby Snowell. Christy's favorite moment that she wrote down was when Anne draws April and Ron into a weird medical story, and Ron calls her the wrong name at the end, and he explains in his talking head that when people get too chummy, he deliberately calls them by the wrong name to let them know he doesn't care about them. April says it's a genius move, and he thanks her, and she responds, "You're welcome, Lester." And Ron grins.
It's great.
I do love that. That is a great moment. And it's something that I wish you could do in real life sometimes. But the problem is it's a power move. And the problem is I already forget people's names anyway.
Hey, champ.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not really, it wouldn't be super effective for me. But yeah, thank you, Christy, for letting us know and sending your email. And again, listener, even if you're listening on your Martian colony in 2132, we'll be dead, Jeremy and I, but the email lasts forever. So send an email to parksandconversation@gmail.com, and whoever is running the archive of our work at that time, like some kind of presidential library, they'll still be checking that email.
Well, I'm working on a Jason and Jeremy AI.
Oh, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah. So basically this will just write in, the shows will redo themselves. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, get that started, and then that'll really free up our Friday mornings.
Okay. Yeah. We could work on it. We could I don't know, do a different podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great to do something else. The fun thing about AI and technology is how it, we watch these things from our childhood, like the Jetsons or whatever. And it seems like technology is going to make our lives easier. But with every technological advancement, I feel like I am just getting busier trying to feed the machine. So as you build your AI, AI, make it better. Make it, to quote the Pawnee Today person. Oh man, why am I blanking on her name?
Joan.
Yeah, Joan. Make it less bad. Joan Calamezzo. That took way too long for my brain. Yeah. So whatever you can, just make it less bad. Spelling is hard when you're talking.
What are you doing?
I want a list of Parks and Recreation characters. There's so many. So
there are so many. It's great. That's what makes the show great. All of the different characters.
So many characters.
Our original cast, the ones they bring in, the ones that leave, secondary characters. Yeah.
Tertiary characters, even.
Tertiary.
Quadtertiary. Jeremy, let's talk about our top 5 episodes.
Okay.
Top 5, and we'll start with number 5, and we'll work our way down. And we'll, if we have the same one, that would just be funny and cool. But we'll do our top 5s. So we'll share the thing, each one share our item, and then we'll talk about why we chose that.
Cool.
Okay. Jeremy, what is your number 5?
Number 5. See, I just can't give a straight answer because I have to, preface everything. This was really difficult from the standpoint that there are so many episodes and I put such little time into organizing this. But I'm going to go with, I just went with things that stuck out. Like I try to approach this, like what just jumps out? Like don't go with what's popular. What do you remember about Parks and Rec? And, a lot of the earlier episodes came up for me. If we don't do kind of the end, I think that the finale or the last two, the one final ride, 1 and 2, is up there. But number 5 for me, I think I'm gonna go with the hunting trip.
Ah,
The
classic.
hunting trip. The whole gang, their shots fired. Ron's, the back of his head, bula bula bula. Leslie being Leslie, trying to prove herself. Just I really enjoy that episode. Out in the woods, away from the office. So yeah, the hunting trip, number 5.
All right. My number 5 is Greg Pakaitis.
Man, you're so much faster at this than I am. Just
It's not a
saying
race, but
saying things quickly.
yeah. So you kind of gave all your reasons for why you chose number 5.
Yeah.
So I'll give my reasons for Greg Pakaitis.
Yeah, please.
Because I love the way that the story is actually told as it's revealed to us later what Pakaitis was up to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch it again and it played by its own rules.
Right.
So I really enjoyed that fact of the story. Like Pakaitis is in the shots
Even
in the
for just a
courtyard.
few frames. Yeah, he really was there.
Yeah. And so those kinds of things, I love that stuff. I love things that are able to be rewatched. And I love that he is just a kid who bothers Leslie
Mm-hmm.
so much.
Yes.
And then also the, like the stakeout elements of it all with her and Dave and
The candy necklace.
yes,
Andy not eating. Yes.
yeah, all these different elements of this story that I just love. So, then
Tom
also,
getting like arrested kind of or
well,
pulled over
that's
like
a different episode.
oh that
That's the stakeout.
that's the
But
stakeout. That's
like
right.
Leslie and Dave watching
Yes.
Pakaitis all
Watching
night.
Picard. Yeah, following him around. That's right.
And the fact that he hired a mom and they go and they egg his house and and he's not there. But then when they finally do catch him, the way that the camera like is running with them, it felt like an episode of Cops from my youth, where the camera is like trying to chase down the bad guy with the officers, like all of those things. Like it
Yeah.
was just such a good episode.
Like when you grew up in Michigan.
Yes, I don't have any memories of watching television from my times in Michigan when I
No,
left when I was 18 months old.
I just meant the cops like running after you.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
I'm
know.
talking about just watching the show Cops. I've never had cops
Oh.
actually chase me on
Okay.
foot.
That's my bad.
So, yeah. So that's why I chose number 5, Greg Pakaitis, and then also just the fact that he shows up later, and again thwarts Leslie's plans for somebody else's life, because he's dating the girl who Leslie wants to bring on as an intern, and Ron's like, "Isn't that the boy who bothered you?" Yeah, so just great.
But just the fact that he shows up is enough to basically ruin everything.
Yes, yeah, Pakaitis. So it's great, and I say that I find myself yelling Pakaitis more often than I should. So
yeah. I eat peaches menacingly at people and nobody gets it. I just think I'm a weirdo. So
I leave peach pits as a threat and a calling card. Take it down to the lab. We don't have a lab. I love that. Like what Leslie thinks the small town Indiana police can do is then Dave's reality check over and over again is like, no one's going to do that. No one's going to torture you. And the way Pakaitis makes Andy cry, like it's a mean thing to say to somebody. So good. Such a good episode. So, yeah, so that's number 5. Jeremy, what's your number 4?
I'm gonna go with Fancy Party.
Fancy Party. All right, I'm gonna go with. Uh, I have Fancy Party later. I'm gonna go with 94 meetings.
Oh, that is such a good episode.
So
It's such a great standalone episode.
yeah. So why did you choose Fancy Party at number 4?
I enjoyed the way that they did the a wedding. Like I think sometimes in sitcoms and stuff, comedies, that weddings and just in television shows in general, weddings can be such a slog, and they're so formulaic. And I thought the 2 wedding episodes in Parks and Rec were really well done. In fact, I think and Daniels, they do a great job with their wedding episodes. Like the Office wedding was a little bit more kind of like a traditional one, but then that one had a twist. But yeah, I just like the wedding episode and the way they did it. And Harris is hilarious, and the jersey, and just Leslie freaking out but growing a little bit, letting the kids be kids,
Mhm.
and like figuring out how to make their own mistakes if they're going to, and just letting people be happy, even if it's not perfect. So yeah, that's why I chose Fancy Party.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I chose 94 meetings because I wanted an episode that introduces us to a lot of the town.
Hmm.
And I think that one also reveals to us uh, the nature of Ron and April's relationship
Hmm.
in a way that is just wonderful. And that Ron actually does care for April, even though he's really mad that she scheduled all these meetings for March 31st because she doesn't think March 31st exists.
Great joke. Yes.
Such a good joke. And so, yeah, so they're all on the same day. And then he's like, oh, I'm just going to like dump these all off on Leslie. And Leslie leaves to try to stop a birthday party for Nick Newport Sr. And so she's completely unhelpful for this whole episode.
It's like the
And
one time he really needs her.
yeah, and she's even excited about the idea. Let's like ramp it up to get it to an even 100. And so like dividing it all up with the different people, and Anne like finding herself on the team somehow, even though she doesn't work there, and taking meetings, and they find out that she's a nurse and she's just diagnosing things for people.
Right.
And as both of our wives being nurses, it's one of those things that just like, yes, this absolutely happens. When somebody finds out you're a nurse, they ask you the weirdest and most personal questions.
and
It's like,
and they show them their bodies.
yes, it's terrible.
Like they just like, hey, what do you see underneath my nipple here? Is that another one? Or no, I mean, just
Is that another nipple?
pull up their shirt and go, should I be concerned about this? And it's like, well, I mean, maybe you should be concerned about how you act in public first.
Yeah, the melanoma, probably not good. What
Yeah.
you're doing before your children right now, terrible.
Right. Yeah.
This is going to scar them much longer than any surgery you're going to have.
And then they go, yeah, but what about on my back here? See this rash? Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
happens.
doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. People think that your nurse friend is an opportunity to save on a copay. And I don't know about your wife, but Kathy is always like, I'm not a doctor, so you should go take that. She's always like, you should go to a doctor.
Yeah,
So
not a doctor.
not a doctor. Yeah. So I just love that episode. I love the different problems that people have. I love that Andy is like trying to not answer anybody's questions with a positive, not to say yes to anything, and
Right.
like promises a new aquatic center and like wants to join the Frisbee League. Come to find out later, he does join a Frisbee League, and they're called the Frisbee Champs, and he named them. So yeah, I love that kind of episode, and yeah, so that was mine. My number 4. Jeremy, what is your number 3?
Number 3, I'm going to go with Sister City. And I know this probably isn't very high on a lot, but on a lot of like as far as absolute best, but personally, I thought Fred Armisen. What I really liked about this one was that Leslie actually has somebody to get worked up about. A lot of times she creates her own drama, and here we have this crew that's really, being mean. I mean, I don't know. They're just driving her crazy and putting down her town, and I just the way she reacts, the way she tries to keep it together, and Viva, all of it. It's great, and jail is one of my favorite bits, one of my favorite jokes. You'd be straight to jail. use it for many things in life. So yeah, Sister City for sure is up there for me. How about you?
Yeah. I went with Flu Season.
Oh man, we're so close. I'll
So
just say it now.
I do.
That's my number 2. So we
Okay,
can just keep
great.
going.
Yeah, I do love the Sister City.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. Yeah, I was torn on putting it on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was a top 10, I probably would have kept it on there. Mainly because I also constantly say straight to jail,
Straight to jail.
straight to jail. And when
Venezuela,
anytime
my country.
and anytime Venezuela's in the news,
Mm-hmm.
I say
All those
Venezuela,
times.
Venezuela, my country.
My country.
Yeah, so I just love that. And I also love that.
This city was planned.
Yeah, so many things. There's so many good jokes in it. And I love that, like, the role of intern in Venezuela is a
Right.
highly sought after role. And like he has palaces and villas and all this stuff. And he's trying to impress April. And April is not impressed at all by him. But then they eventually Donna and April go to Venezuela. I love that. It's
Yeah,
so good.
they just use them for a free trip, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, that is a great episode. But yeah, Flu Season. One of the reasons why I love Flu Season is because we start to see Ben and his interest in caring for Leslie,
Mm-hmm.
but also how he's impressed by Leslie.
Right.
Like
Oh
that
yeah.
she's so, like, yes, she's crazy, but when she needs to, like, she can, like, get control of the situation and, present in like that presentation. And he's just like, that was a flu-ridden Michael Jordan, right? Like
Right.
that kind of respect for her and her ability. Like, I just really like that. And I also find myself quoting Chris Traeger, stop pooping,
Yes.
way more than I should.
Yes, you do.
So, and yeah, it's just a good episode. And when Chris is like, Leslie came in through that hole in the wall, the door, and I may have thrown up somewhere in this room. Check that drawer. It's just so dumb and so funny. Yeah, it's a good episode. So that was my number 3. It makes me laugh. So yeah. All right, Jeremy, your number 2 was Flu Season.
Yeah, number 2 was Flu Season.
All right. So what? Why did you put that at number 2?
So all the same reasons. Just a lot of the medical stuff. I can't remember all of the lines, but it's where we get a lot more of Doctor What's His Face and how sarcastic and terrible he is, and pretty much useless. And yeah, April being so terrible to Anne, and just all of their crazy demands, and yet they still like grow out of the whole thing. So yeah, I just Flu Season, and again, just with nurse wives, that one just it's really really funny because of how real some of it is, just how ridiculous people are with sickness. And it's like, oh, why listen to me? I'm only a doctor, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People who, it's just so funny. Like the way the doctor is so, he's a terrible person, right?
He's really disconnected from his patients.
Yeah.
Like
He
he's just
doesn't care
doesn't care
because he has to deal with them all the time.
right. Next,
So,
like it's just a number.
yeah. Later on, when Ron sees the doctor and he's like, I really love I love that kind of patient. Other patients ask so many questions. It's so annoying.
Right.
It's like, I get it. There are times where it's like, ugh, people, come on. Dr. Harris. There it is. Sorry, I had to find him in my list of characters. Yeah, Dr. Harris. He's a great doctor. Just totally uninterested. And when he goes to Anne's Halloween party and he brings wine and nobody drank it, and he's like, nobody drank this, so I'm taking it. Also, I'm borrowing this book.
He comes in his scrubs.
Yeah, I was like, oh, and like, you're a doctor who came as a doctor? Who would do that? And it's like all the nurses also came as nurses.
True.
Yeah, pretty funny. So good. All right, Andy, my number 2 was Andy and April's. I mean, You're Jeremy. I was reading Andy. Andy and April's Fancy Party was number 2 for me.
Oh, nice. How come?
Um,
Like what?
well,
Yeah.
I placed it there because I really like Andy and April. I think they're a wonderful couple.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, it was a surprise to everybody that these people who just started dating, like a few episodes before this, are getting married.
Right.
Like instead of like the long buildup of like, will these
Will
people
they,
ever
won't
get
they?
married? It's like,
Right.
no, they're getting married now. And so I like that subversion of expectation. But then I just really, like you said, April's, or Leslie's willingness to let them figure themselves out,
Mm-hmm.
and Ron's like moment of wisdom in the situation, whereas like, I've been divorced 3 times, and nobody's gonna get it right, nobody's gonna get it perfect, and telling her like, you got to let people just be people and figure themselves out. I thought that was really great. And Ron's instructions on how to effectively burn an ex-wife effigy.
Right.
We got to stand at a distance before tossing the flaming bottle of isopropyl alcohol. So yeah, like that kind of stuff was pretty funny. And then again, Harris and Brett as they Brett, no, whatever his
No,
name
you're
is.
thinking because is
I'm
that his name in Superstore?
Superstore.
Yeah.
But like they released the doves, like that one's dead.
That
We
was
know that now.
it's all me. It's my
And then
bad.
when Harris asks, "What's April's deal? You
Yeah.
think she's down to clown?" He's like, the girl from the wedding
Wedding.
that just happened." Oh, she's the girl from that thing.
Dang.
Yeah, Harris is great. So,
There. Yeah.
yeah. So that's my number 2 episode. Um, so yeah. So in my top 5, 4 of them are very early in the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
And so I just find that interesting. Like I know it didn't drop off for me, but I do think that they did a really good job setting these characters and setting this story so that these early episodes like really resonate. Like the first season, none of these episodes are from the first season because the first
Right.
season I think they're still trying to figure it out. None of these episodes are centered on Mark Brandanowitz because he's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But they're
Khaki
all,
pants.
yeah, they're just so bad. But yeah, so these, I just really think the early seasons are really strong.
Yeah, I wrote down just a couple, like the idea of the arc of the entire show. Yeah, and season 1 was kind of like, what is this show? It's not The Office. What's it going to be? And so we're just kind of introduced these characters. Season 2, things start to get going, and we start to get a little bit more. But season 3 is where it really takes off. I think season 3. I know we haven't finished our favorite episodes yet, but season 3 is probably. I think it's the most solid season. And then 4 is where, I mean, they're off and running. So they kind of set up the world in seasons 1 and 2, and then 3, and then also kind of just the way the arc of, I mean, it's mostly driven by Leslie as our main character, and so so we're introduced to her. She is running. It's like the office, right? Like, well, I mean, the Parks and Rec office, and just the relationships there. And then as they as it goes on, we get bigger and bigger. We get into the town with the Harvest Festival, and then we get into politics, town politics, and then finally towards the end, national politics. So we grow throughout the whole thing. So I think, yeah, those first 2 seasons were a little bit rough, but 3 and 4 were so good. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah,
Those are
agree.
my feelings about the show. I mean, 5, 6, and 7 were fun because now we've got all the setup, and I think I don't know how you feel about this with movies and things, but like origin stories, I feel like are the most exciting because we don't know anything about the character or why they do what they do, and once we figure that out, now it's more about what are they going to do versus who they are as people. And even though they grow, the origin stories are so fun because you're world building. And, Pawnee was such a great world, and they were able to kind of keep it interesting by adding these extra characters and bringing them around at different times. And I've got a whole list of like guest stars and stuff that they were able to bring onto the show after season 2, mostly because of Megan Mullally. So, I mean, I thought they did a really good job of keeping the show interesting and fresh, even though, we knew who everybody was and kind of how they ticked by the end of season 3.
Well said.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love it.
so my number one episode
Yeah.
of the whole thing would probably have to be End of the World.
End of the
Um,
world. Wow.
yeah, I chose End of the World because of I love the Zorpians,
Hmm.
and how Ron is like cool with them, but also uses them to sell his homemade flutes. And I really, really liked at this point April and Andy's uh, that arc, that whole thing where they're trying to do the list, and she helps Andy in a way that Anne kind of never, like Anne was such a nurturer and a caretaker for Andy, almost like an enabler. And this is where it's like Andy just needed someone to do life with. And I thought April did a really good job, and is like, and he later on we see he helps her with like and tries to make lists. Like it's like he learned from this, and and so when they end up at the Grand Canyon, there was this super sweet the road trip, and they wake up and it's awesome, and then wake up from he's asleep in the car, and only to find out that he wanted to go to Mount Rushmore. So I just like the final joke was great, and yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Where's
End
the
of the world.
president's faces?
Yeah,
Yes, that is a good episode. That's it. That's great. My number one is the Cones of Dunshire.
awesome.
Because it plays on a joke that started, when Ben was one of his unemployed seasons,
Hmm.
and then he's like, "I'll throw this away," but it didn't just go away. And then the um, accounting office was into it, and they created the game, and they gave Ben the copyright for it, and all these different things. But then, in order to get the free Wi-Fi for Pawnee, he and Andy go to San Francisco. They go to Grizzle, and he wins it with the game that he created. And so throughout the whole series, Ben is kind of this put upon guy who is just like trying to like clean up other people's messes, is what it feels like. But then here his this opportunity for him to actually like be the hero and in Andy's world win the whole company. Like I really enjoyed that episode. But then also part of that is Leslie, because they're in San Francisco, Leslie's wrestling with the whole um national parks job.
Right.
I do like that Ben is able to help her see that her opportunity is bigger than she could imagine. And so it leads to this next chapter for her and Ben both to continue moving forward in their careers. And so yeah, so I feel like if the show ended there, like I would have been like, that's a pretty good end place.
Right.
As they are kind of building a um building the future for the show or for the people.
And it kind of comes
Um
back like Jen Barkley also kind of plays into that a little bit by saying you need to look bigger. Like this town is too small for you, and then Ben reaffirms that with taking her and showing her the part that sign and saying, "Hey, this is you could be in charge of all of this."
right.
And it's not and again, what's really nice about I feel like the show, it's not just about having control or having power. It's that Leslie's going to do something good with that, and Ben knows that. Like we the people need you to be in charge, to lead, because you're going to make it better. You're not in it for yourself. And yeah, so there's just that undercurrent of optimism throughout the entire show.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree. So so those are our top fives.
I like it.
Yeah.
Wow, Cones of Dunshire.
Good lists. I like that we both had mostly different lists,
Yeah.
which is cool. And yeah. So Jeremy, what is your overall favorite character arc?
Oh man. Um. So I think I think the most fun one was Andy, because you get a guy who is literally living in a pit. Like he breaks his legs, lives in a pit, only has a suit, and by the end, I mean, not only is he happy, um, which you want for all the characters, but it just his entire arc of trying to figure out from shoeshine boy to thinking as a policeman or wanting to be an officer, and then really his band, and then finally hit the Johnny Karate show, and then being able to walk away, like not being selfish and being able to walk away from that so that April can live her dream. Because in the beginning he was taking from Anne, like just her time and her energy. And by the end, he's changed so much, but he never loses who he is. He's never loses that golden retrieverness. And I think that, I mean, it's so endearing. I think April, along the same lines, just the two of their character arcs of kind of growing up. But we say that like in such a bad way, but really they are making better decisions. Like they don't lose who they are. I mean, they have a whole
Mhm.
episode about that as far as like, oh, we're boring, we're old boring people now, and it's like it's not who you have to be. And then outside of that, probably a real close second is honestly is Tom, because he was the worst. I mean, he was so bad in the beginning. He was almost wholly unlikable. And by the end, he grows so much. And Lucy's great for him. He gets to be and he still keeps his swagger. Still keeps, but he's not falsely confident anymore. He has made it and even failed and then made it again. And he gets brought down to earth, but still has his own way of doing things. But he just isn't. He finally finds value in things, like what really means things to people, and isn't totally selfish anymore. But yeah. Anyway, how about you? Who's your favorite arc?
My favorite arc is Ron.
Yeah.
Ron Swanson, not Ron Dunn. Ron Swanson. Because here's somebody who doesn't want to be a part of a government machine, but is a part of the government machine.
Right.
He
Like, how did you
has,
get in that job in the
yeah.
first place?
What? Yeah.
Right?
What is your goal?
You were a steel worker, you were a metal worker, a woodworker.
Yeah.
What happened?
So he's working from the belly of the beast, right? And but he also doesn't want to care about anybody. He'd rather just be left alone. But throughout the show, comes to realize that no, he does need people. And so these the building of these workplace proximity associates that turn into friends, turn into family. The way he becomes like a father figure to April.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a wonderful character development. And then, by the end of the show, he comes to Leslie asking for guidance and
Mm-hmm.
direction on like what to do with his life, and leaves a very successful company to be more true to himself.
When he says, I mean, the actual line, I mean, he says, I made that mistake and I don't plan on repeating it.
Right. Yeah. So he realized he's a person who grows
Right.
and changes while holding on to a pretty strong like moral code of his
Yeah.
own making, but still like he is a person of principle, and but he also comes to realize that no man is an island, and so he's just a person who's willing to change, and he's a very funny character in how like uh stoic he is, and how like he's so self-reliant, and they really play up all of that. But then also like, no, he needs people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I love Ron so much. I think he's one of the best characters in all of television, and having his family and all this stuff changes him over time. I just love it. So
The Tammies.
yeah, he pursued his first wife because she told him to, and his second wife because he was pursuing like hedonism and pleasure, and it was just selfishness, really. And then with Diane and the girls, it's everything he didn't want,
Right.
but it was like these loud girls, and then another having a child and getting married, all this stuff. Like, it is not something that Ron seems to have wanted, but it actually helped him become a greater person.
And Diane was a very strong, very independent, woman, like his other, like, but she wasn't selfish. Like, she
Yeah.
wasn't trying to control Ron, but she had her own sense of identity and purpose for her. And I mean, yeah. And so he still got to be with someone who wasn't just a pushover, but wasn't trying to actively take over his life.
Right. Yeah.
And just going back to his and April's relationship, just that the thing that sticks out to me is when she finds out that, or when he goes over to her house to ask her back, and he calls her Zuzu, and because her parents let it slip, and she's like, "Okay, Duke Silver." So like they
Yeah.
just, there's that mutual, I know something and you know something, and it's like, oh man. So that was really fun.
A mutually assured destruction of secrets.
Right. That's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have such a great relationship, and I just think they are a wonderful pairing. So yeah, so Ron is probably the favorite character overall for me. Seconded by Andy,
Mhm.
because like you said, Andy, never loses that golden retrieverness to
Yeah.
his life. But his life situation changes, but it doesn't necessarily change him,
Right.
right? Whereas Ron's life situation, like they're very different. But like there's because Ron is transformed, but he is still the same but better, right? Like Ron doesn't lose anything. And I think that's what he comes to realize with his relationship with Diane is he's not losing anything by being a part of her family.
Right. He's not giving, because he is so, like, he values his privacy so much, like his aloneness so much, that he's not, it's like he's losing that, but he's gaining so much more.
Right.
So
And so
he
when Diane
realizes,
confronts him, like you can't just go off the grid,
right.
delete all pictures of Ron. Like you can't, you do need some people in your grid. And, so his commitment to the belt clip cell phone, Tom almost dies. And but Ron doesn't care what Tom thinks. And the same with Andy. Andy doesn't care what anybody thinks,
Right.
other than April. And so like that dynamic, one of the, one of the key things for I think any healthy relationship, any healthy marriage is a healthy differentiation where the couple are able to be their own people, but be on the same team.
Right.
And so Andy and April are uh, like they're a pretty early picture of that. Like they are their own people,
They're
but they're
wildly different.
yes, but also they just love being together,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even though they're so different. And then Ron and Diane are also like both the strong-willed, independent-minded people. They've done a lot on their own as a single parent and as just a single man who's just like wildly successful and wealthy beyond any idea. He doesn't need anybody in his mind, but they come to respect each other and want to be together, right? And so, yeah, when couples are only ever do things together and all the time, it's like that's a
The
red flag.
codependency. Right.
So like we played this we had this couple over to play board games years and years ago, and they told us like if we're playing board games with teams, we have to be on the same team, otherwise we really get mad at each other. And I was like, this is a game, right? I'm not talking about you and your
I was
wife.
going to say, like, dude, I mean, it could have been. And I was kind of like waiting to see if this was some veiled criticism.
No, not at all.
No, you just tell me to my face, which
I
I
would. I have no
appreciate.
problem
Right.
telling you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. That's good.
But this, and it was one of those things where it's like, that just doesn't seem healthy
Right.
to like say like, no, we can't compete against each other. It's like, well, really? Like,
It'd be it's a very quiet ride home.
yeah. And, so it's like, I don't know. It just really freaks me out when people are that, like codependent where they can't like differentiate, like this is a game time and we're playing between like, no, this is our relationship. Anyway,
Board games are life.
I'm sure there's words for this.
Probably it's called couples counseling.
Yeah, which I'm not a therapist. And so I tell people that right away when they're like, "Can we meet with you?" I was like, "You should know, I will disappoint you."
But here's Richard Nygaard's number.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well, awesome. Jeremy, you said you wrote down a bunch of bits and jokes, and I didn't write down any.
Oh, these are just things that kind of came to the top of my mind.
All
So
right,
I'm
go.
just gonna just bust through them. Probably one of my absolute favorite lines. It's about the cones. You
Mhm.
forgot, you learned a lot of flashy moves. It's about the cones.
I forgot the essence of the game.
Isn't the essence of the yes, my lonely farmer. The Andy's joke that made all the writers upset when he said network connectivity problems.
Yeah.
Just because there's lore behind that, and the show is great. You already said stop pooping. I really love the arcs of the Harvest Festival and Unity concert because it felt very town connected. So those season, 2, 3, 4 in there were really fun from that aspect. I'm just, again, none of this is really in order. Oh, food and stuff. April's Crows.
A good deal on crows.
It's a really good deal on Crows. This is where I get my food and most of my stuff. Ben, I got to go back to Ben. As far as favorite characters, Ben is my favorite character on the show. I relate to him a lot. So one of my favorites, though, and now I say that, and then I'm going to say this. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Is depressed Ben. Because could a depressed person make this, and his claymation and calzone zones and just all of the ridiculousness of that? But like you said, out of that comes the board game, and I think it was a throwaway thing, and there's chapters of our lives where things don't make sense, but maybe later on they can, and I thought that was really cool. One of my absolute, I was. Do you remember the sight gag? Of course you do, because it's one of the best. Get on your feet in the Comeback
Yes.
Kid episode, and
Yes.
then they build the small platform, and it's just
And
this
the ramp, the red carpet that's way too short.
the red carpet that's too short, the platform that's too small, and then they just all fall, and they keep playing the song over and over, and they do it long enough to where it goes from cringy to, funny to cringy to like, this is boring to absolutely hysterical. And I thought I just can't get that. Bobby Newport is hilarious. Leslie's the whole idea of just that libraries and vegetables are terrible. That running gag. I really enjoyed the murals from the beginning of the show. I like that they didn't pound it into the dirt throughout the years, but I always thought that was really funny. Treat yourself. How can you not? That's a thing that I know a lot of people actually do. And just a good reminder to like, hey, it's okay. Go. You don't have to buy like stuff that's out of don't go spending credit, but like it's okay to buy something nice for yourself every once in a while.
Yeah, like a Batman suit.
Yeah, exactly. You deserve it.
You can
Like
fix
Dwight.
the router.
Like, and then even goes into Dwight when he wants the wizard figurine in the mall. And then just some lines, and just a few lines that stuck out. And Ron seems like, even though Ron Dunn is kind of the cliche wise guy, like wise man. Ron Swanson just had the best like relational advice, like never half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. We need reminders like about that. And Craig, I love Craig. He has a medical condition, and it's called caring too much, and it's incurable. And jogging is the worst. I know it keeps you healthy, but God, at what cost? And that I just really relate to Anne there. And Ron, again, with food, we know he loved food. Just give me all the bacon and eggs you have. Wait, I worry. What you just heard was give me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I said was give me all the bacon and eggs you have. Do you understand? I don't know why that has always stuck with me. And then finally, I think Leslie kind of puts a capper on life. And remember, we need to remember what's important in life: friends, waffles, work, or waffles, friends, and work. It doesn't matter, but work is third. So I just like putting things in order. Well done, Leslie. So anyway, those are just kind of the things that Gary Merbles, Night Guardians. Yeah, I got a question. What the hell? There's so many things. The spinning cone of meat, meat tornado. Where do you stop? You can't. It's great. Anything shake loose in your head talking about this? Bobby Newport.
we could just sit and talk about, writing about, singing about what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, this show is just rich. It's so rich, and this is probably the 15th time that I've done a rewatch of this show.
Yeah.
Right, easily. Like it is one of those shows that I just go back to again and again. It's a when people tell me they don't like it, I just don't understand who hurt them.
Right.
Right? Like, why don't you like it? Like it's it's inoffensive, it's fun, and it's not habit forming. So, it's just such a good show,
Yeah.
and a lot of jokes per minute, a lot of heart, and yeah, it's just a great show.
Yeah,
So,
it's not super cynical. Even April, who is probably the most cynical person in the show, is still has, she changes a bit too. There was, like I mentioned before, there was a ton of guest stars throughout the series. So just kind of to remind us, and I won't say them all, but we already mentioned Fred Armisen. We had Will Arnett, Kristen Bell, John Benjamin, Chris Bosch, and the basketball player in Detlef Schrempf. You said Louis C.K. We had Sam Elliott as Dunn, Will Forte as the
Twilight father.
Twilight guy. Genuine was in there. John Hamm, the douche, Nick Kroll, John Larroquette, Andrew Luck, Parker Posey was really funny. Andy Samberg. Hey guys, check out this log I found. J.K. Simmons and Justin Thoreau. And then, I thought Peter Serafinowicz, his little arc with Andy, that whole thing was hilarious. And then also a lot of politics because we had Biden and Barbara Boxer, Newt Gingrich, McCain, Michelle Obama, and just, yeah, so many little things, so many tertiary characters, so many, some of them came back, some of them didn't, but they just built this really rich world. And my final kind of thought was like, as you leave this series, as it's over, I get why when you go into Brooklyn Nine-Nine or The Office or even The Good Place, people do want this to exist in the same universe, because it's like, I miss these people. I miss this town. I can't live there, but I want it to be out there. So when I'm watching this show, the fact that could be out there makes everything, I know it's still out there, and so I don't fault people for trying to do the whole, is it a crossover or is it in the same universe, even though, the same characters play, or the same actors play different characters in them. But I don't know what you thought about that whole, Sureverse, but yeah.
Well, as a fan of comic books, I'm open to the multiverse.
Okay.
And so if they were to fall into a multiversal portal of some sort, I'd be fine with that. If it was, if in 20 years, Mike Schur comes out and he's like, yeah, they were all supposed to be in the same universe the whole time, I'd be like, excellent.
Yeah, perfect.
Wonderful.
My gosh. Patton Oswalt's
is filibuster.
Filibuster.
Completely improv filibuster.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
That's one of the best. And just because multiverse and Star Wars and Marvel at the same time.
And when they did Boba Fett, the books of Boba Fett,
yes.
That is how he came back out. Like, it's like,
the hand reaches up out of the maw.
The maw of the Sarlacc. It's so good. So many wonderful, wonderful things. And we could talk about it all day, but we probably shouldn't.
No, because it's still a half day, which is still
you probably have to go get your kids soon.
I'll complain about it for the next couple of years until we get done with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because I think both my kids will be graduated by the end of that one. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, Jeremy, I'm glad that we have finished this show and I can finally watch something else with my life. So onward to Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, man. Well, I'm excited for it. And I'll see you at the precinct, man.
Yeah. At the next briefing or whatever.
Sounds good.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.